Hello all you John Deere owners that are angry that have blown U-joints from your engine to your transmission. I'm the owner of a John Deere 2320 with the same situation going on. I'd just like to share a video on what I did and where I got the parts and all that kind of stuff, because from the forums online there's a lot of people with the issues and not really a lot of information on where to get the aftermarket U-joints and what to really do. I think people are scared to do this job. It's actually pretty easy to do. I think anybody can do it. So with the purchase of maybe a couple small tools. So anyways, so what happened to me, I was out mowing, heard a horrible noise, thought it was the mower, kind of said, whatever, I'll figure it out after. Kept going. I took the mower deck off, and then I noticed that the tractor was squeaky. So every time I use the hydraulics or I use the transmission go forwards or backwards, it was squeaky a bit. Tightened the fan belt, wasn't that. Looked underneath, grabbed the drive shaft, sure enough, there was some play in it. So it wasn't completely destroyed, but the one cup had come apart, all the bearings come out and melted. So anyways, so then I pulled it in here, I was all mad, I went on the internet. They said, yeah, you gotta replace the shaft. I called dealer, yeah, you need to replace the whole shaft. And then I said, well, you can't just get the U-joints. So eventually, arguing with them long enough, they said, yeah, you can get U-joints, look at that. So they're about $60 where I am anyways, and so I said that's just crazy. So I started looking on online and going to the local parts dealers, and I ended up finding some. So anyways, what happened here, so the floor pan comes off, obviously in this area. There's 5 bolts, something like that, pretty easy to come off. The top cowl comes off first, then the medium cowl comes out. Take off your one pedal and your brakes on the other side, just the pedals, and then take that whole floor pan off. Once the floor pan was off, you can see where the one spline shaft there on the pump, and then the other spline shafts on the back of the engine in there. It's kind of hard to see. So that was the more difficult one to get out. Had to remove the C-clip, pull it out, and then punch the pin out. And then some guys are talking about loosening motor mounts and all that. The motor is on rubber motor mounts, so all I did was pry against the metal plate here and the flywheel just slightly while pulling on the shaft, and it gave me the extra couple millimeters to pull it out. It's not, it wasn't hard to get out at all. I'd say maybe took me, I'm just gonna guess, maybe an hour or something like that. I wasn't keeping track at the time because I didn't think I was gonna make a video, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, this drive shaft. So anyways, we'll come over here, look at the drive shaft. So the drive shaft's still in very good shape. I also forgot to mention the tractor's only got 600 hours. So the one universal joint that's on the back side of the shaft facing the rear transmission was okay. That's this one, stock one with the grease circ in the middle. So that one's fairly easy to grease. This one here is hard to grease. I've tried greasing it. I thought I had a bit of grease. Apparently I didn't do such a good job. And it's the one that blew. So I kind of threw out the other one by accident. Here's a couple caps that were kicking around, and there's a piece of metal that I'd pulled out. That was wedged right inside one of the caps there when I pulled the U-joints out. So it was gone. When I pulled these out, you just press them all the way. First you take your C-clips out. So your C-clips are, sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand on the camera, and so your C-clips are inside there. You got 4 of them. You take them all out. I used my press the U-joint all the way down, pull the top cap out, vice versa. You get them out. That part's pretty easy to figure out. So then it was finding U-joints. So I went all around Sudbury where I live here trying to find them. And I couldn't get stock ones. There's no cross references. So I measured this one here. So this is a good one right from the factory. So the diameter of the cap here was 20 mil. And the distance from the top cap to like this distance here, from top to bottom, was 50 mil. Now I'm going to make sure I put the exact measurements on the comment side there just to make sure I'm right. But from what I remember there, it was 20 and 50. So with that being said, we matched up to these ones here. So Napa only had one and Kaza only had one. They're their own brands, right? But it turns out they're all made by the same company anyways. So the part number is 410 when you look it up in the book. They're both 410 for both companies. Just go ask your auto parts supplier to pull out their U-joint book. And order them up. So they're fairly cheap. This one was 27 bucks and the other one was like 29. Comes with the these style of clip. Use needle nose pliers, a little easier to work with in my opinion. But the nice thing is the grease zerk is on the outside of the cap. So I don't know if that's going to be good or bad or not. I'm pretty sure it's going to be good because it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier to grease these U-joints. So I'm excited to press these in and try them out. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm replacing both just because I don't want to have to do this anytime soon. Hopefully they'll be a little easier to grease, and I'm going to go ahead and press these all in. I'll be right back. Hey guys, we got the U-joints all pressed in. Everything went as planned. If you want, go on YouTube there and look up how to press in U-joints. I'm sure there's people who got some much better videos than I would be able to explain. So anyways, I just used my press over there in the corner. It's got a regular 20-ton press. I'll show you it there. I used the press and I used just some different sockets to fit your cups and that. So anyways, that went fairly well. So just a couple lessons learned. One, the supplied C-clips interfere with your grease nipple when you're trying to screw it in the cap. So someone wasn't thinking there. So I just used one of the original snap rings. And another thing is I had to put a spacer, just a washer, in between the grease nipple and the cap, because when I screwed the grease nipple in, it bottomed out. So in the cap, so when I screwed the grease nipple in the cap, it bottomed out and it hit the U-joint itself. So I'm guessing maybe one of the holes on one of the four sides was drilled out larger to accommodate for that, because when I put it in I just took all the caps and put them aside. I never really thought of that. So that could have been my mistake, but I highly doubt it. It's probably just not really thinking there anyways, just like the snap ring. But anyways, so the grease nipple is on the top now instead of inside, so you can see how much easier that's going to be to grease. And the big one is going to be the one on the engine side. You can see now that it should be nice and easy. Just have to get a long adapter and grease it. My thoughts on the U-joints. So from what I can tell, the factory U-joints, in my opinion, they look like they're manufactured a little better. The seals, the seal there, you can see the different little grooves in it. It looks like a good seal. The other U-joints, it's just like a little round, just like an exaggerated O-ring almost. And the shaft is smaller on the aftermarket U-joints, and the bearings themselves are bigger on the aftermarket. So it's hard to say. Only time will tell. If I were to recommend anything, I'd probably just recommend ordering the stock U-joints. But the only problem with that is the greasing issue. So a stock U-joint's no good in here if you can't grease it. So by putting the aftermarket one in here, you can at least grease this one regularly. So we'll see what happens. So the shaft's all done. Everything went well. The total cost was 60 bucks, 50 or 60 bucks for both U-joints. I got a good original spare here, and hopefully I can get back to work today. So what I'm going to do is install the U-joint, or install the drive shaft in. If it gives me any troubles, I'll add onto the video any little issues I had. Once the drive shaft's in, I'm going to take her out, wash it down, because you can see it's pretty dirty in here. You don't typically get to wash all this stuff. So I'm going to pressure wash it all, clean it nice, use anti-seize on all the nuts and bolts, and go mowing. Thanks guys, and good luck, and don't be afraid to tackle it yourself.